If you know anything about me, you know I hate monopolies, but every once in a while it does make sense to move everything to a single provider with vigorous oversight and treat it more like a utility. I was reminded of this when I read this article in Real Estate News over the weekend. The biggest challenge for agents and brokers, too many MLSs. Now, that's a little ridiculous. It's not the biggest challenge. It's certainly a challenge, but it's not the biggest challenge. But we'll put it on the list. Check out this paragraph. The longer-term underlying challenge our members face is way too many MLSs. Simply put, there's absolutely no need for 550 multiple listing services. I have brokers who conduct business in Georgia complaining they belong to 9 MLS systems. Oh, that's going to be expensive. Some of the MLSs in Atlanta have 70 to 80% overlap. And the argument is it's confusing for the consumer, expensive for brokers and agents, and economically inefficient. Jack, why are there so many MLS systems out there? I thought it was all one system. No, it's this balkanized, crazy hundreds, 550 apparently, different MLS systems. Why is that? Well, you got to think about it for a second. All of these started before the internet. Almost all of them started before the internet. And now, since the internet, there has been a lot of consolidation with various MLS systems. Connecticut rings a bell to me, but mostly they're there to preserve themselves as organizations and also market share for the agents in that region. Let's take a look at Massachusetts, for instance. Now, here in Massachusetts, we have MLS PIN, which I'm a member of. It's broker-owned. And they, I say, would have about 80% of the market. And with MLS PIN, you can list a property anywhere in the state. However, there are some other MLSs that they compete against. There's the Berkshire MLS, which is owned by the realtors out there. There's Cape Cod and Islands MLS, which is owned by the realtors down there. They've lost a lot of market share to MLS PIN over the last several years. And then there's Link MLS down on Nantucket. You might remember that the Nantucket realtors are actually trying to control and limit which members can actually join the Link MLS. They wanted to have their own little monopoly down there, as if Nantucket was its own state, basically. And they effectively pled guilty to an antitrust violation back in 2016 with the Massachusetts Attorney General's office. Resolves allegation competitors are unfairly excluded from the market. Yeah, because that's exactly what they were doing. And that's what these legacy MLSs do effectively. They keep, for instance, on Cape Cod, they attempt to keep off-Cape agents off-Cape. They don't want competition from people off-Cape. They want all those real estate transactions for themselves, and therefore they are also, by doing that, they can drive up the price of the fee. But that was in a world where syndication to the local newspaper was much more important. For instance, one of the reasons why you wanted to list your property with a Cape and Islands MLS member was because that way it would be syndicated to the Cape Cod Times, the big newspaper, because Cape Cod used to be effectively its own little miniature media market. Those days are over. The portals, like Zillow, Trulia, the portals are where people go to look at listings. They don't go to the Cape Cod Times. At least not many people do. Very few people do. And how do I know that these organizations are basically trying to protect their market so that they don't have to compete against other people like that are not from the Berkshires? Because they used to tell me this. I remember back when I worked at the State House, back in the olden days in the 1990s, I'd meet with the realtors on Realtor Day, and they'd tell us the importance of their Cape Cod Association. They basically point blank, I remember them saying, and the reason why we have this organization is to make sure that we don't have to compete against off-Cape realtors, which was the same strategy as Nantucket, and I think it's reasonable to assume it's the same strategy as the Berkshires MLS. Now, there's been a lot of talk about a national MLS. I'd be interested in that, not sold on that idea, but I am at least sold on the Massachusetts idea of just one MLS for the entire state. MLS PIN is actually looking at things regionally. They're expanding to other nearby states, and that seems to also make sense. But these tiny little MLSs that are just like legacy clawing on that seem to exist sort of for their members Or are they just self-perpetuating organizations that actually don't serve their members and don't serve the consumer in the big picture? And that's how I come down on it. So I'd much prefer that we go to one MLS. It would require a higher level of scrutiny. Whenever you have anybody get basically a monopoly, there'd have to be a lot of scrutiny on that. But otherwise, I think that would be more efficient, treat it much more like a utility, and I think that would be less expensive for agents, brokers, and better overall for the consumer. All right, I'm Jack from Jack Gately Real Estate and the Online Real Estate Academy. Have a great day.